On a quiet morning in June 2026, the Prime Minister stood outside his office in London. He told the country he was stepping down. This sudden resignation was a big shock. He was not forced out by the public in an election. Instead, his own political party members asked him to leave. This decision came after some very bad local election results and low public support across the country. This event highlighted a major problem for the United Kingdom. The country was about to have its 7th Prime Minister in just 10 years. In most strong countries, changing leaders so often would be a serious constitutional problem. But in Britain, this has become almost normal since 2016. Many leaders have left their jobs quickly. David Cameron resigned after the Brexit vote he lost. Theresa May failed to get her Brexit plan through Parliament and then left. Boris Johnson quit due to scandals. Liz Truss only lasted 49 days before her economic plans caused big problems. Rishi Sunak lost an election. And now, the Prime Minister who won a big election less than 2 years ago is also gone. This rapid change of leaders makes many people ask a big question. Why is a wealthy, historic nation like the UK struggling so much? Why does it burn through so many leaders so fast? This book will try to answer that big question. It is like an Agatha Christie mystery story. A detective gathers all the suspects in a drawing room to find out what happened. We will look at many different things that seem to be hurting Britain. These suspects include Brexit, which deeply changed the country's path. We will also examine austerity, which means less government spending for public services. An aging population and a broken system for building things are also on our list of possible causes. A government that controls too much from London and a public that has lost faith in its leaders are also suspects. All these things play a part in stopping Britain from being stable. But with everyone gathered in the drawing room, what is the real weapon destroying the country's stability? Too many leaders. The United Kingdom was seeing many new leaders. In just 10 years, the country had 7 prime ministers. This fast change became normal for Britain, showing deep political issues. For over 100 years, 2 main parties, Labour and the Conservatives, held most power, but this changed. In May 2026, a new party, Reform UK, gained many local seats. Both Labour and the Conservatives lost much power, a big surprise. A new insurgent force was changing British politics. Other parties, like the Green Party, also grew stronger. Many voters now supported parties other than the 2 big ones. The old system was breaking. Experts said British politics had become highly fragmented. It was split into many smaller parts, not led by 2 clear choices. This political turbulence made long-term planning hard. Stable governments need time to build and fix things, but with so many changes, getting things done became much harder. The Brexit vote in 2016 was a big reason. 10 years later, it still caused deep problems. On June 23, 2026, Britain marked 10 years since the vote to leave the European Union. There were no celebrations. Instead, people marched, asking to rejoin. Brexit changed the country's political map, creating a deep fault line between Leave and Remain voters. This divide still affects how people vote today. The decision left a lasting emotional residue in the country. People still argued, even after voting twice. Polls show many Britons now think leaving the EU was wrong. This deep split among families continues. The old two-party system is gone. No one has built a new system that can reliably make long-term decisions. Can a country so divided ever agree on one path forward, or will the political map break apart even more before the next election? 3. The money problem. The United Kingdom has a big money problem. For about 17 years since the global financial crisis in 2008, the country has not gotten much richer per person. Experts call this the productivity puzzle. Productivity means how much value 1 hour of work creates. Before 2008, British productivity grew quickly. In 35 years, it doubled. But in the 15 years after that, it only grew by 5%. This slow growth, or stagnation, means people are not earning as much as they should. It is a shock to realize that, for many people, they are actually poorer. If the economy had grown normally, the average person would now be producing, and therefore roughly earning, about £47,000 a year, but instead, the figure is closer to £37,000. When we look at money adjusted for inflation, which means checking what money can actually buy, the average working person in Britain earned less in 2022 than in 2008. This has not happened in modern British history before. This slow growth creates a problem. When the country's economy grows slowly, the government collects less tax revenue. This means the government has to find other ways to get money. They might borrow more, raise taxes, or cut public services like schools and hospitals. In Britain, governments have had to do all three things at the same time. By late 2025, the UK government's debt was expected to be 95% of the total value of the country's goods and services, known as GDP. This is almost twice the average debt level of other rich countries. To get more money, the government has been increasing taxes. They are not doing it with one big new tax. Instead, they are making many small changes. For example, they are freezing tax limits and adding new charges on electric cars. These small changes add up. By the end of the decade, the amount of taxes people pay in Britain will be the highest it has ever been, at 38% of GDP. However, all these taxes have not led to businesses making more investment for the future. Businesses in the UK put less money into new machines, software, or training compared to other rich countries. Instead of investing, many companies buy back their own shares. This shows a lack of planning for the future. There is also a problem with energy. Electricity prices in the UK are very high. This is because the country relies on imported gas and has an old electricity system. High energy costs hurt big industries like steel and chemicals. The government has tried to help with discounts, but this just helps with the problem. It does not fix the main cause. So, with taxes creeping to a record high and corporations refusing to invest in the future, is the UK permanently trapped in an endless economic doom loop? Building new things in Britain is very hard. It can make people feel very frustrated. Imagine a big plan for a new high-speed train costing many billions of pounds. This project could link cities and help many people. But sometimes local people stand against it. This opposition is called "not in my backyard" or NIMBYism. People do not want new buildings, roads, or railways near their homes. This local resistance can stop large projects. One famous example is the HS2 train line. It was meant to be a big project to connect London to other major cities, but it has been cut back a lot. Now it will only go from a London suburb to a Birmingham suburb. The costs have also gone up a lot, from around £40 billion to over £87 billion, and the first trains will not run until 2036, 30 years after the idea first started. This long delay happened because of many procedural problems, not just a lack of money. For instance, one local council rejected a simple drain for the railway because of concerns about the view. This small decision added millions to the cost. Why does this happen? The way Britain plans new buildings is very old and slow. This system started in 1947. It makes building anything, a group of new houses, a wind farm, or a train line, take a very long time. Many steps are needed, and people can go to court to stop things. Small groups who do not like a project can often stop it, even when many people across the country want new developments. A key issue involved a legal fight over a special tunnel built for bats near the train track. This bat tunnel became a symbol of how complex the rules are. Many people felt that environmental rules, meant to protect nature, had become too much, stopping important projects. This shows that the problem is not just about money, but about the institutions themselves. The groups made to build things are often weak. They get little money and face many political changes. This means they are often built badly from the start. So, governments try to free up land for new homes, but local people often protest. The government then often gives up, changes its mind, and nothing gets built. This means that homes stay very expensive, especially for the younger generation. Will the younger generation ever be able to buy their own homes? Or will this builder's curse stop Britain from building what it needs for a long time? 5. Hospitals in trouble. The National Health Service, NHS, is loved by many people in Britain. Since 1948, it has offered free health care to everyone. But now this important system faces big problems. In March 2026, there was some good news. The NHS reduced its waiting lists. Over 312,000 patients were taken off the lists in 1 year. This was a big change in 16 years. Health Secretary Wes Streeting said it was the largest cut in waiting lists in 17 years. New methods like sending patients straight to test without extra visits and using Formula One-style surgery helped improve things for some patients. However, other parts of the NHS are under great pressure. In January 2026, emergency rooms, known as A&E, saw a record number of attendances. More than 2.32 million people visited A&E. This was 4.6% more than the year before. Hospitals had their busiest winter ever. A serious new problem has grown, called corridor care. This means patients are looked after in hallways or other non-medical areas. This happens because there are no proper beds or rooms free for them. Official records from 2026 showed that on an average day in May, over 2,200 patients received corridor care in England's emergency departments. Medical groups like the British Medical Association had asked for years for these numbers to be made public. The deeper structural problem is that hospitals cannot work well if the wider system around them is broken. For a long time, most hospital beds have been full, often over 90%. Many patients are medically ready to leave the hospital, but they cannot go home. This is because there is no social care available for them in the community.
Social care is the system that helps elderly and disabled people outside of hospitals. This system is often not given enough money and is seen as the unsolved problem beneath the more visible NHS crisis. A government group, the Casey Commission, is studying this. They will share some early findings in 2026, but their main recommendations will not come until 2028. This long timeline shows how slowly big problems are addressed. So, despite some improvements in waiting lists, the pressure on hospitals continues to grow.
Will the entire hospital system collapse because of this hidden bottleneck in social care before the government can finally act? 6. Who is in charge? Many local city councils across the country are facing big money problems. Some have even declared bankruptcy. This means they issue a Section 114 notice. It is a legal step where a council's chief finance officer officially says that the planned spending will be more than the money they have. Cities like Birmingham, Britain's second largest city, and towns such as Woking, Slough, Nottingham, Thurrock, and Croydon have all issued these notices. This is a shocking truth because these councils provide many important daily services to local people. A main reason for this situation is that Britain has a very centralized government. This means most power and decisions are kept in London, in the main government offices, also known as Whitehall. Local authorities do not have enough money or legal power to act on their own. They cannot easily raise their own income. Most big decisions about health, education, and housing must go through national ministries in London. This creates a serious bottleneck. It means too many things need to be decided by a small number of ministers and senior staff in London. They become overloaded with managing everything, from building hospitals to railway lines. In other countries, like Germany or the United States, regional governments would handle many of these tasks.
Because of this, the central government struggles to act quickly, and nothing seems to get done efficiently. Even the Prime Minister's job has become too complicated for one person to manage well. Governments have tried to fix this problem for decades, but without success. The bankruptcies are not only due to councils making bad investments. Experts say a big part of the problem comes from years of funding cuts from the central government. At the same time, there is a sharply rising demand for expensive, required services, like caring for adults and children. Councils must provide these services by law, and their costs continue to increase. The future looks difficult. A survey found that if a temporary accounting rule ends in March 2026, 18 councils could become insolvent overnight. Another 6 councils might follow in 2027. This means half of the local councils in England could run out of money very soon. Who will pay the massive bill when these councils can no longer afford to provide vital services for their communities? This is a huge question for the country, with no easy answers. 7. Boats and borders. The image of small boats crossing the English Channel has become a very strong symbol in Britain. These journeys are full of danger. In 2025, 73 people sadly died trying to make this crossing. The human cost of these trips is tragic.
Many migrants take these journeys because they have very few other legal ways to seek safety. They often come from places with global conflicts or where they face persecution. It is a desperate choice for a new life. These boat crossings also cost a lot of money for British taxpayers. At its highest, the cost for housing asylum seekers, often in hotels, was more than £8 million every day. Over a year, this means about £3 billion. These funds are used to provide basic care and shelter. What makes this issue especially interesting is its political size compared to its actual numbers. Around 36,000 people arrived in the UK by small boat in the year ending May 2026. This number is quite small when you look at all immigration to the UK. Most people arrive legally through visas for work, study, or family. Yet many British voters believe that controlling immigration is the most important political issue facing the country. This discrepancy between the low number of boats and the high political concern is hard for experts to fully explain. Some people think it reflects a deeper worry that the government cannot control important events. Since 2018, every government has promised to stop the small boats. They have introduced many new laws and schemes. For example, the Nationality and Borders Act became law in 2022, and the Illegal Migration Act in 2023.
There was even a plan to send some people to Rwanda, but it was later stopped. The Border Security, Asylum, and Immigration Act became law in December 2025. To enforce these rules, governments have tried different methods, including planes, drones, and even jet skis. Despite all these efforts and millions in funding, the boats continue to come. Migration researchers often say that domestic laws in one country are not the only or even the main reason people choose where to seek asylum. The bigger drivers are things like wars, persecution, family ties, and language. These global factors are very hard for any single country's government to control. This situation makes many people wonder, can the government really deliver on its promise of stopping the boats and controlling the borders? Or is this promise just a political illusion, a goal that is impossible to achieve with the tools available? The constant arrival of boats, despite all the money and laws, suggests that this problem is much bigger and more complex than it appears. It leaves the country asking if true border control is truly possible. 8. A tired country. Surveys showed a sad picture. Many people in the UK felt the country was shattered Britain. It meant the nation felt stuck, very tired, and did not trust its leaders or systems anymore. Trust in government was very low, much lower than in many other countries. For example, trust in government in 1986 was around 40%, but by 2024 it had fallen to just 12%. People felt that the old ways of doing things no longer worked for ordinary people, or that politics could deliver for them. This feeling came from many problems building up: the pandemic, the high cost of living, very long waits at hospitals, high migration, and many changes in prime ministers made people feel this way. They were not fighting or running away from these problems. Instead, the country was freezing. This means people were conserving energy rather than acting, feeling under prolonged, uncontrollable stress. Many people believed the country was going in the wrong direction. About 7 in 10 Britons agreed with this. They also thought problems like the high cost of living would never truly end and might just become permanent. This widespread lack of trust is a big obstacle to fixing things. Trust is a precondition for any successful change. When citizens believe the government is competent and acts in good faith, they accept new taxes more easily. Difficult choices about building new homes or reforming public services are easier to push through when communities believe their leaders are trustworthy. But when trust collapses to such low levels, every other fix becomes harder to make and harder to gain public support for. All the problems discussed in previous chapters are not separate. The issues with housing, the economy, healthcare, and politics all interlock like pieces of a complex puzzle. You cannot easily fix one part without affecting others. For example, you cannot solve the housing crisis without reforming a planning system that is also tied to important environmental protections. You cannot easily fix social care without raising taxes or borrowing more money. However, the country's money situation is already tight because of slow economic growth, which has lasted for 17 years. This growth will not easily return without new investments, but businesses are reluctant to make those investments in an uncertain, politically changing country. Therefore, piecemeal, quick fixes are not enough. The problems are too connected and too deep. Trying to solve them one by one is mathematically and politically impossible. The country feels exhausted. Leaders have tried many reforms, but they struggle to get the time, the stable majority, or the public patience needed to see these changes through. The problems have become so interconnected that almost any serious fix requires several other fixes to happen first. But the political system often does not allow enough time or public patience for this to occur. Do you think a country with such deeply connected problems can ever truly fix itself? Or is this the new normal for modern democracies? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.